Hello dear friends, this is your personal English coach Professor DC, and in this video we will be understanding an essay written by the world famous author Mark Twain. The essay goes by the name of On the Decay of the Art of Lying. Now, who doesn't know Mark Twain? He is, as I said, one of the renowned authors of the world. You must have come across many of his quotes and articles and write-up. Before we actually try to understand the essay, it is important that we get to know the author a little bit. Mark Twain is just a nickname. Do you know the original name of this person? The original name of this person is Samuel Langhorne Clemens. He went by the name of Mark Twain as his nickname. Mark Twain was born on 30th of November 1835 and he died on 21st of April 1910. He was an American writer, a humorist. Humorist is a person who makes other people laugh. Entrepreneur, publisher, and a lecturer. He was lauded as the greatest humorist this country has produced. And what else? William Faulkner called him the father of American literature. His novels include The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which was written in 1876, and its sequel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This was written in 1884. The latter often called the Great American Novel. Having understood the background of Mark Twain, let's go ahead and understand this essay. But let me explain how I have arranged this essay. So as you can already see on my screen, I have broken down this essay into various sentences, into different sentences. Not only that, I have mentioned the meanings of difficult words beside that word itself in blue color so that it becomes very easy for you to understand and hence score marks in your examination. Alright, let's first understand the background of when this essay was written, where this essay was written, and what is this essay trying to convey after all. So, let me tell you that this essay was written in the year 1880. Now there's a place called Connecticut, and there was a club in that place, and on one fine day, the members of that club, who were historians and antiquarians. What is the meaning of antiquarian? Antiquarian is an adjective. It means relating to do or deal in antiques or rare books. So, on one fine day, as I was saying, the members of the club, historians and antiquarians, they decided to meet up. They arranged a meeting, and there Mark Twain decided to write a short essay, and it is none other than On the Decay of the Art of Lying, and present it to the people, present it in front of the meeting. Now for this particular work, Mark Twain was offered for $30 prize. The essay was so good that people decided that Mark Twain should get a prize of $30, which is a big amount during those times. But Mark Twain decided that he will not take the prize. So you can imagine the members of the club meeting inside the club and Mark Twain presenting his essay, his thoughts on the decay of the art of lying. But the first question you should have is, what is the meaning of this title? The word decay can be used as a verb as well as noun. But the title seems to be using it as a verb, and if we use it as a verb, decay means to rot or decompose through the action of bacteria and fungi. There are many synonyms of the word decay: decompose, rot, spoil, perish, deteriorate, degrade, break down, so on and so forth. Let's talk about the word art. Art can also be called as a skill. It is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. So by now we know the word decay, we know the word art. What about lying? Now lying is the present participle of the word lie. What is the meaning of lie? It means not telling the truth, to be untruthful, to be false, to be dishonest. So Mark Twain presents his thoughts, and he believes that the art of being dishonest, the art of being untruthful is decaying. The skill of telling lies is decaying, is rotting. So what is this essay all about? In the essay, the author believes that all men lie because we must lie. There are many instances wherein men were prompted to lie at some point of their lives for the benefit of others. According to him, it's better to give a good lie than destructive truth. Lying for others' advantage was given precedence than telling the truth at all times, no matter how it hurts. So now you know what this essay is all about. Let's understand it sentence-wise. Observe, I do not mean to suggest that the custom of lying has suffered any decay or interruption. No, for the lie, as a virtue, a principle, is eternal. The lie as a recreation, a solace, a refuge in time of need, the fourth grace, the 10th muse, man's best friend and surest friend, is immortal and cannot perish from the earth while this club remains. Mark Twain begins by clarifying certain things. People must have read the title and would have built some preconceived notions about the title and what kind of essay it would be, so Mark Twain clarifies first. He says, observe, he says, look, I don't mean to tell you that the habit of being untruthful has been obstructed. The ritual of being dishonest underwent rotting. And what is the reason? He says telling lie is immortal. Being dishonest, being untruthful, as a principle, as a virtue, is everlasting. So a couple of praises Mark Twain has done for the virtue of lying. The first praise is recreation or pleasure. Lying is said to give pleasure, a solace. It makes you feel comfortable when you lie, a refuge. When you lie, you feel as if you are safe, you are under a shelter in time of need. So in worst cases, when you have to lie and when you lie, you feel good about it. You feel as if you are under a safe shelter. Now the next set of words relate to the Greek mythology. The fourth grace. So in Greek mythology, there were these three beautiful goddesses, and Mark Twain calls lie as yet another goddess. The next word is the 10th muse. Now, this relates to Greek and Roman mythology. In those mythologies, there were 9 goddesses who were worshipped for arts and sciences. So, Mark Twain calls the virtue of lying as the 10th goddess. The next set of adjectives are easy. Mark Twain calls lie as man's best friend, best and surest friend who never fails. Immortal, something that cannot die, cannot perish from the earth, while this club, the club which he was addressing, remains. So until and unless this club is in existence, lie will remain immortal is what Mark Twain suggests. Sentence number 2. My complaint simply concerns the decay of the art of lying. Mark Twain has a complaint, and he says the issue about which I have written this essay is about the fact that people are forgetting the skill of lying. The art of lying has been decomposing. Mark Twain has an issue with people when they cannot lie properly or lie skillfully. Sentence number 3. No high-minded man, no man of right feeling can contemplate the lumbering and slovenly lying of the present day without grieving to see a noble art so prostituted. Let's understand this first. No high-minded man, no man of right feeling. This refers to a person who is mentally strong, who is righteous, who lives by some principle, who understands most of the things, can contemplate, can understand or examine the slow-moving and dirty lying of the present day. So if there's a person who is very honorable, respected, and if he hears a lie from another person, which according to the author is slow, heavy, awkward and dirty, then that honorable man would feel sorry. The same righteous person would feel sorrow, would start grieving to notice that the art of lying, the noble art of lying has been prostituted, means betrayed. The same righteous person would think that he should have lied in a better way. He or she should have lied in a way by which another person gets some benefits or advantages. But when Mark Twain had penned down this essay, he would have clearly observed that people have forgotten the noble art of lying. So he says, a person who is living by his principles would feel awkward when he hears such lies. Sentence number 4. In this veteran presence, I naturally enter upon this theme with diffidence. It is like an old maid trying to teach nursery matters to the mothers in Israel. Mark Twain clearly knew that the people whom he is addressing are veterans, are all experienced, and most of them know much more than the author himself. So he says, because I know that you all are very experienced, I have written down this essay and I am presenting before you with shyness. I am shy, I am a little bit thoughtful before presenting this essay. And then he presents a metaphor. It is like an old maid, which means a female servant, trying to teach small things, trying to educate the mothers in Israel who are already knowledgeable about most of the things. So to make it simple, we can say that according to the author, it is as good as a female servant who doesn't know much trying to teach preschool or small or trivial matters to the mothers who are well aware about most of the things. It would not have become to me to criticize you, gentlemen, who are nearly all my elders and my superiors in this thing. If I should here and there seem to do it, I trust it will in most cases, be more in a spirit of admiration than fault finding. Indeed, if this finest of the fine arts had everywhere received the attention, the encouragement, the conscientious practice and development which this club has devoted to it, I should not need to utter this lament or shed a single tear. Sentence number 5, a couple of difficult words that you can learn. It would not become to me to criticize you, gentlemen. Mark Twain said, it's not possible for me to criticize you. I am not trying to find fault with your understanding, with your philosophies, with your thoughts, gentlemen. Mark Twain says, you all are my elders, you are elder to me, and you are my superiors. So I cannot find fault with you, especially in this particular subject. And then he makes the audience prepared by stating that if in case you feel that my thoughts and my essay represent fault finding, if my words feel as if I'm finding faults in you, then that will be in the spirit of admiration. I would be admiring you more than fault finding. Next part of the sentence, indeed, if this finest of the fine arts. What is the author referring to finest of the fine arts? It's nothing but lying. If lying had everywhere received the attention, if people really talked about the skill of lying and how it is decaying, and Mark Twain says if people were encouraged about it and conscientiously, diligently practiced it, worked on it, which the club has already been devoted to, if this was the case, then Mark Twain would not come here with this essay at all. Then Mark Twain, he says he shouldn't be lamenting or feeling sorry about this matter right now, or he won't be shedding or crying about it. So friends, we can already see that Mark Twain is concerned about the decay of the art of lying. And he tells the audience that I'm not here to find faults with you. But if you feel that I am finding faults, then it will be in admiration. It will be because of respect. I'm not at all finding faults with you. And then he says, this club is devoted to such topics. But unfortunately, the club never talked about it, paid enough attention, and therefore I'm here to lament on this topic. Sentence number 6. I do not say this to flatter. I say it in a spirit of just and appreciative recognition. It had been my intention at this point to mention the names and to give illustrative specimens, but indications observable about me admonished me to beware of the particulars and confine myself to the generalities. Mark Twain says, I'm not flattering you, I'm not praising you for no reason, I'm not giving you false praises. I'm just trying to show my gratitude. I'm trying to show my gratitude to you people and to this club by presenting this essay. Then in the bracket he says, there were his intentions to give example of many incidents about the fact that he was not flattering and being appreciative, about the fact that he was thankful to this club and to the people. But what happened? Why is he not doing that? indications observable about me. Mark Twain must have observed something. He must have gotten signals about certain things by which he warned himself firmly. He restricted his words and his speech and his essay. Something happened after which he said, no, I shouldn't give any examples. I should just talk in general. Nice word use here, confine. To confine is to restrict. Mark Twain restricted himself to the general ideologies and general thoughts instead of giving elaborated examples along with maybe names of things or names of people. Moving on to the 7th sentence. No fact is more firmly established than that lying is a necessity of our circumstances. The deduction that it is then a virtue goes without a saying. No fact is more firmly established. It means it is a fact nobody can deny. It is a universal truth. Nobody can disagree. What is it that nobody can disagree? That lying is a necessity of our circumstances. So the author believes that in our lives there are some situations in which we have to lie. Sometimes lying becomes a necessity. It may be for feeling safe, maybe for betterment of somebody else, maybe to save the situation. So the author believes that this is a fact, that lying or to be dishonest happens because of the situations in which a person is. The deduction that it is, the conclusion that it is. So we can conclude from this fact that lying is a virtue, lying is goodness. Goes without saying. It means it is understood that lying is a virtue, it is goodness. So in this sentence, the writer states that it is because of circumstances or situations that a person lies. And that is a well-known, well-established fact. And if that's the case, then we can conclude that lying is a virtue. Next sentence. No virtue can reach its highest usefulness without careful and diligent cultivation. Therefore, it goes without saying that this one ought to be taught in public schools, even in the newspapers. If you want to be a master of anything, you need to practice it. If you want to be good at maybe selling a product, you have to practice selling. So similarly, the author states that if you want to be good at lying, if you want to be good at being dishonest at times because of situations, then you have to invest some time in its cultivation, invest some time in growing or practicing it, and that too carefully and diligently. If you carefully and diligently practice being dishonest, not for some evil purposes but for some good purposes. As I said, sometimes you have to save yourself from a situation, sometimes you have to do good for others. In such circumstances, you need to lie. And how can you be good at lying? You have to practice it, you have to cultivate it diligently. And how can you practice or cultivate it? The author states that lying, the art of lying, the skill of lying nicely should be taught in schools. And even the newspapers should tell people on how to lie well. Even the newspapers should publish articles on a regular basis which explains people the art of lying nicely. Next sentence. What chance has the ignorant, uncultivated liar against the educated expert? Let's take two people for this example. Person A and person B. Person A is someone who has never practiced or cultivated lying diligently and carefully. Person B has learned lying, the skill of lying, in his or her school, and he also reads articles in magazines, in newspapers about how to lie very well. So, now if both these people, person A and person B, get stuck into situations and they have to save themselves or save some other people for the betterment, who do you think would win? It's obviously person B. So the author states, what chances has the ignorant or uneducated person in lying have of winning against the educated expert? There are obviously very less chances. What chance have I against Mr. Burr, against a lawyer? Judicious lying is what the world needs. Now the author compares himself with a lawyer. The author considers himself as someone who is not very well educated in lying against somebody who has a degree in lying, a lawyer. So the author says, what are the chances? Who would win? Obviously, it is the lawyer. who is educated in the skill of lying, who can easily save his or her client, and that too by lying judiciously. What is the meaning of being judicious? Being judicious is with a good judgment. The author states that you can lie, you can cultivate the skill of lying with a good judgment, and that is the dire need of today's world. Sentence 11. I sometimes think it were even better and safer not to lie at all than to lie injudiciously. Rather than lying without imagining the circumstances of your lying is worse, as the author states. If you firmly believe that your lying would help out others, would ensure better future, would save yourself, only then you can judiciously, with a good sense of judgment, get indulged in lying. Otherwise, don't lie at all. Sentence 12. An awkward, unscientific lie is often as ineffectual as the truth. I should have written the meaning of ineffectual. It means not producing any significant or desired effect. So the writer states that if you lie and if your lie is awkward is causing difficulty, and unscientific, meaning not in accordance with scientific principles or methodology. If your lie is causing difficulty or hard to deal with, or if it's not in accordance with science, then there is a problem. It is ineffective. It's of no use to speak such a lie because it is as good as telling the truth itself. So now let's understand, why would a person not tell the truth and lie? Why would a person lie? Well, if you look at research, the lie does matter to them. That is why they lie. Sometimes when they tell the truth, they feel like telling the truth is giving up control. People lie maybe because they don't want to disappoint you. And sometimes people lie because it's not a lie to them. And finally, people also lie because they want it to be true. There are a couple of reasons why a person will lie. But if we go in accordance with the author states that if your lie is awkward and unscientific, then it will not create any effect or impact on the listener. Next sentence. Now let us see what the philosophers say. Who are these philosophers? They are people engaged or learned in philosophy, especially as an academic principle. We can also call philosophers as thinkers, theorists, theoreticians, etc. This is basically a Greek word. Now the author for a moment wants to reflect on the thoughts of these philosophers, which is sentence number 14 onwards. Note that venerable proverb, children and fools always speak the truth. Now friends, we already know that the author is in the presence of veteran audience, the club members who are very learned, and so he has to use some words. For example, venerable, respected proverb, the proverb not meant to mock anyone. So the author quotes this proverb, children and fools tell the truth. What is the meaning of this proverb? It means in some cases it is to one's advantage to lie. Only children and fools are unaware of this fact. This English proverb means that lying can sometimes be beneficial or advantageous to someone. This isn't making a moral claim that lying is good. It simply means that in some circumstances, lying is advantageous for people because the truth can get you into trouble. Now, the only people who are not aware about all these things are number 1, children, number 2, fools. So that's explained in sentence number 15. The deduction is plain. Adults and wise person never speak it. Never speak what? Never speak the truth. The adults and a wise person, a person who is smart, a person who can see or maybe foresee the circumstances, imagine the situation, who know the outcome. A wise person, a smart person, never speaks the truth. Only children and fools speak the truth because they are unaware, obviously. Parkman, the historian, says the principle of truth may itself be carried into an absurdity. Mark Twain quotes the beliefs of a famous historian who went by the name of Francis Parkman, an American historian. He was born in Boston in United States. And the saying goes like this: the principle of truth may itself be carried into an ridiculous or wildly unreasonable state. What is the meaning of principle? Principle means a concept. a proposition, idea, theory, postulate of what? Of speaking the truth. The theory of being honest has an unreasonable conclusion. Next sentence, in another place in the same chapters, he says, the saying is old that truth should not be spoken at all times, and those whom a sick conscience worries into habitual violation of the maxim are imbeciles and nuisances. So, the historian had written a chapter about speaking the truth. And Mark Twain is trying to explain his thoughts, explain his beliefs by quoting some of the lines. And in the same chapter, there is another line which explains that you don't need to be truthful all the times. You can lie at times. Now, there's a word used, conscience. What is the meaning of conscience? It is a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. Or we can say conscience is a moral sense. Now, the conscience is said to be sick. Again, what is the meaning of maxim? Maxim is a saying or a proverb or a motto. So that historian state that a person with a sick conscience, sick judgment, sick moral sense keeps on speaking the truth, keeps on violating the maxim. What is the maxim? The maxim is truth should not be spoken at all times. So a person with sick moral sense, if the person keeps on violating this maxim, then that person is a fool and an annoyance and an irritation. The author strongly quotes the sayings or the writings of the historian to prove his point. It is a strong language but true. Yes, if we read it once, we would feel as if this is rude. The language is upfront, but the author states that despite of the fact that the historian has used a very strong and rude language, the fact is that the truth cannot be spoken at all times. Sentence 18. None of us could live with an habitual truth teller, but thank goodness none of us has to. So if we go back to mythology, who's the person who always spoke the truth? You know this very well, right? It is Harish Chandra. He's called Satyavadi Harish Chandra. He was a king and he was well known for his truthfulness. But in this chapter, Mark Twain states that a person cannot live with another person who's always speaking the truth. But thank God that's not the case. Thank God there is not a single person who doesn't lie, is what Mark Twain states. An habitual truth teller is simply an impossible creature. He does not exist. He never has existed. According to Mark Twain, there cannot be a girl or a boy, a person who in their lives have never ever lied, have never been dishonest or untruthful. The author strongly believes that every single person in this world has lied. And the existence of a person who always speaks the truth no matter what is fake. It's not possible. Of course, there are people who think they never lie, but it is not so. And this ignorance is one of the very things that shame our so-called civilization. There are some people in the society who claim that they always speak the truth, who never lie, who are always in congruence with the facts. But Mark Twain believes that it is not so. That's not possible. Those people are just ignorant. They are not aware that they are lying. And this attribute, this characteristic of such people brings the society to shame. If the person is aware that he or she lies at times, there is nothing wrong with that. But no, to look good in the society, they will always claim that they always speak the truth. Sentence 21. Everybody lies, every day, every hour, awake, sleep, in his dreams, in his joy, in his mornings. If he keeps his tongue still, his hands, his feet, his eyes, his attitude will convey deception and purposely. The writer establishes the fact that every single person in this world lies. Everybody on this earth is deceiving. What is the meaning of to deceive? To deceive is to cheat or to trick or to dupe or to swindle, to defraud. Mark Twain believes that everybody in this world, everybody alive is deceiving. While they are awake, while they are asleep, in various other situations, if not verbally, then non-verbally. And at the end, Mark Twain states, why do they deceive? What's the reason? That's for a purpose. The different purposes we just discussed a couple of seconds back. So to make it very simple, in sentence 21, Mark Twain states that everybody in this world lies for a purpose. Even in sermons, but that is a platitude. So sermons are religious talks. There are some people who are self-made gods, or we can say self-claimed gods, who give these kind of religious talks or sermons, we can say. Mark Twain states that even in those pure and truthful looking religious talks, there are lies. But that is a platitude, that is a remark, that is a statement. A platitude is a statement, especially one with a moral content, that has been used too often to be interesting or thoughtful. Now, if you have heard these sermons, the sermons are intended to make you think about something, to make you reflect on your life or any area in your life that is concerning you. So the author states that sermons also has a lie in it, although they are just kind of preachings. Next sentence. In a far country where I once lived, the ladies used to go around paying calls under the humane and kindly pretense of wanting to see each other. And when they returned home, they would cry out with a glad voice, saying, "We made 16 calls and found 14 of them out." Not meaning that they found out anything important against the 14. No, that was only a colloquial phrase to signify that they were not at home, and their manner of saying it expressed their lively satisfaction in that fact. Let's understand this sentence. So, what is the meaning of far country? Far country is a word used to indicate distance or remote place. So, Mark Twain lived far away from where he was born once upon a time. So, we need to understand the meaning of paying calls. To pay a call means to pay a visit or make a short visit, especially for formal courtesy, or it may be for business reasons. So let's simplify this sentence. In a far country where Mark Twain lived, in a distant place where Mark Twain lived, there were these ladies who would go around paying visits, thinking that they would meet each other. Now they might be pretending. That's why the author has used the word kindly pretense. They might be feeling compassionate for each other, and they might be pretending as if they want to meet each other. So in short, in that place where Mark Twain lived, the ladies usually went to pay visits to each other, and they would come back home and be happy about the fact that they visited a couple of places and they found few people they intended to meet. So the ladies would come back and say that we tried to meet 16 people. We had planned to meet 16 people, but were able to meet only 14 of them. Now, Mark Twain states that this sentence which they speak after returning home doesn't mean that there was something really important with those 14 ladies or 14 people. The ladies were only happy because they were happy for the fact that they were not at home. They had gone out to meet different people. And when they speak such things, they felt satisfied. So why did the ladies, after returning home, used to speak, "We made 16 calls and found 14 of them out"? It's not because 14 of them were important. It's only because they themselves felt really satisfied and glad when they spoke these words. So what happens here? Sentence number 24. Now their pretense of wanting to see the 14 and the other two whom they had been less lucky with was that commonest and mildest form of lying which is sufficiently described as a deflection from the truth. According to the author, their pretense, what is the meaning of pretense? Pretense is an attempt to make something that is not the case appear true. So the pretense of wanting to meet the other 14, the ladies pretended that they wanted to meet the 14 other people, was a small and mild lie. And Mark Twain states that obviously such sentences are deflection or diversion from the truth. So Mark Twain is trying to put forward his beliefs, his thoughts, his points by giving some examples. He states that when I used to live in a remote place in a far away country. There used to be some ladies who used to meet other people or other ladies, and when they came back home, they used to say, I met 14 ladies. But the importance is not of the people whom they met, but of the fact that they felt happy when they came back home. So the author states that in that scenario as well, they lied. Is it justifiable? Most certainly. Is this valid? Is this legitimate? Is this right? The author states definitely this is right. Is their lie justified? Is their lie valid? Yes, this is valid. It is beautiful, it is noble, for its object is not to reap profit, but to convey a pleasure to the 16. So in the example that the author stated, why did those ladies lie? Just because they wanted to express their pleasure to the remaining people around. It was not for getting any profit. And so, according to the author, this lie is valid because it gave pleasure to the ladies. The iron-souled truth monger would plainly manifest or even utter the fact that he didn't want to see those people, and he would be an ass and inflict totally unnecessary pain. So let's say there's a person who is very, very truthful, always speaks the truth. Metaphorically speaking, iron-souled truth monger. Now, in the example that Mark Twain gave in the earlier sentences, the ladies pretended that they wanted to make calls. They pretended that they really wanted to meet the remaining 14. But the iron-souled truth monger, a person who's always behind truth, always speaking truth, what would he or she do? That person would bluntly admit, I didn't want to meet those people anyway. He would be an ass, he would be a donkey or a foolish person in the middle of the crowd and inflict or impose unnecessary pain. He would also make other people around him feel bad. Mark Twain is again stressing the importance of lying. When a person lied and told others that he really wanted to see them, everybody felt good and he himself felt good. But the reverse situation, when he admits that he didn't really want to meet anyone, then he might spoil the atmosphere. Sentence number 28. And next, those ladies in that far country. But never mind, they had 1,000 pleasant ways of lying that grew out of gentle impulses and were a credit to their intelligence and an honor to their hearts. Again, Mark Twain recalls the far country and the ladies living in it, about how those ladies were pleasantly involved in lying, knew lying very well, had mastered the art of lying. And where did it come from? It came out naturally. They had these natural urges to lie. But was it bad? No, Mark Twain believes that the pleasant lying was a credit to their smartness, was an important virtue that they had, and it was a kind of high respect, great esteem, distinction, privilege, glory, tribute to their hearts. Let the particulars go. Let's not talk about specific examples. Let's not talk about particular things. The men in that far country were liars, everyone. Mark Twain observed that all the men, forget the ladies, the men, all lied. Everybody lied. Their mere howdy-do was a lie because they didn't care how you did, except they were undertakers. So friends, one clarification here. Although the meaning of the word howdy-do is unfortunate, unpleasant or an awkward situation, but howdy-do, if you speak it idiomatically, it means how do you do? How do you do? It is a greeting. In America, when you meet someone, what do you say? How do you do? So the author states that all men were liars, and even if they asked how do you do, they didn't mean it. They didn't really care how you did. Except a person who is in the business of preparing the dead bodies. Except undertakers. If a stranger called and interrupted you, you said with your hearty tongue, I'm glad to see you, and said with your heartier soul, I wish you were with the cannibals and it was dinner time. So, let's take for example a task that requires a lot of focus and intense dedication. You are involved in that task and suddenly an unknown person comes to you and keeps asking you a lot of things, keeps interrupting you, keep obstructing your work again and again. But you lie. In your heart, you're thinking, why is this person disturbing me? But what do you say? You say, I'm glad to see you. Now you are speaking a lie. You are not at all glad to see that person, but still you say, I'm glad to see you. And this is a diligent and a skillful lie. Now this makes the person who interrupted feel good. This makes you yourself feel good. But what if you had said, I wish you were with the cannibals and it was dinner time. I wish cannibals ate you up. Now this would have been devastating for the person who interrupted you and for you as well. So this would not have gone well if you spoke the savage truth that your interruption is not liked by me. Instead, you lied. And let's say, for example, that person who came to you did his or her job, asked whatever he wanted, took all the information he or she needed from you, and then he is going away. So that's what sentence number 35 is. When he went, you regretfully said, must you go? And followed it with a call again. But you did no harm, for you did not deceive anybody or inflict any hurt, whereas the truth would have been made you both unhappy. So, as I said, if the person is going away from you, the same person who really interrupted, the person is going away from you now. So, what lies do you speak now? Should you go? Is it really necessary for you to go? Okay, you're going now, but make sure you call me later on, maybe some other day, we'll talk. Now, this makes the person feel better. This is a lie, because you did not like the fact that the person interrupted you, but still you spoke a lie. Call again. Should you really go? Now, this is a diligent lie, and this saved you from being or showing hatred towards that person. This did not hurt him, obviously. And if you would have spoken the truth, as I said, the outcome would have been devastating. The outcome would have made both of you unhappy. Sentence number 36. I think that all this courteous lying is a sweet and loving art and should be cultivated. So what is the meaning of courteous? Courteous is a polite, respectful, or considerate in manner. The synonyms of courteous are polite, well-mannered, civil, respectful, well-behaved. So if your lying is polite, if your lying is well-mannered, well-behaved, then according to author, it is a sweet and a loving skill, and it should be cultivated, it should be grown, it should be practiced by everybody in this world. The highest perfection of politeness is only a beautiful edifice, built from the base to the dome, of graceful and gilded forms of charitable and unselfish lying. Now let's make this sentence very simple. We can say the highest form of politeness is lying. The author believes, Mark Twain believes, that if you're being extremely polite, then that is a form of lying. But metaphorically, the author has compared this lie with a beautiful and huge building which is stylish, which is covered with a layer of gold, and inside it is generous and charitable lying. What is the meaning of charitable? I'm sure you know it very well. It is relating to the assistance of those in need. So when you're being extremely polite, when your politeness is at its perfection, then you are beautifully, charitably, and selflessly lying, is what the author believes. What I bemoan is the growing prevalence of brutal truth. What is the meaning of bemoan? When you bemoan, you express dissatisfaction or sadness or unhappiness or sorrow over something, over some fact. So the author is unhappy about something. The author states that what makes me very unhappy is the fact that in today's world, people are speaking the truth bluntly. People are being honest brutally, savagely, and violently. Now, as we already know, sometimes you have to lie for a couple of reasons. These days, people are not lying skillfully, and that makes the author upset. Let us do what we can to eradicate it. What can we do to eradicate people speaking savage and violent truth? Yes, we can educate them. We can make them aware that sometimes it's okay to lie if it's for the good of the other people. If it's for your own good, it's better to lie, no problem. An injurious truth has no merit over an injurious lie. To simplify this statement, we can say a good way of presenting your ideas is to avoid both of these things: speaking truth that is injurious and speaking lie that is injurious. Both are equal according to the author. Injurious truth, which means your honesty, which can lead to unhappiness, is equal to a lie which is not well thought, a lie which is not skillful, or we can say injurious, or we can say hurtful. Hurtful lie is equal to hurtful truth. Neither should ever be uttered. You should not speak an injurious truth. You should not speak an injurious lie, according to the author. Sentence 42. The man who speaks an injurious truth, lest his soul be not saved, if he do otherwise, should reflect that the sort of a soul is not strictly worth saving. What is the meaning of lest? Lest is in case, just in case. So a person who is very truthful, who never speaks a lie, and is savagely and violently truthful, or if in case the same person speaks injurious lie. So in short, to simplify this sentence, we can say that the person who speaks injurious truth or injurious lie reflects that, shows the world that it's okay if that person is not saved. The person doesn't care for himself, and that person is not worthy of being saved. The man who tells a lie to help a poor devil out of trouble is one of whom the angels doubtlessly say, "Lo, here's an heroic soul who casts his own welfare in jeopardy to succor his neighbors. Let's exalt this magnanimous liar." Now there's a person who saves a poor person who is in deep trouble by speaking a lie, which is well practiced and well taught and skillful. A person saved a poor person by lying. So looking at that hero, what will the angels think? The angels from above the clouds would look at that person and think that the person is a real hero who risked his own welfare, who risked his own dignity, his own respect to save another soul, a neighbor, a poor. Let us all respect this soul who generously lied to save another life. So the angels will have high regards, high respect if you save another person by lying. An injurious lie is an uncommendable thing, and so also in the same degree is an injurious truth, a fact that is recognized by the law of libel. It's pronounced as libel. I should have mentioned the meaning. The meaning is defamation, a published false statement that is damaging to a person's reputation, or we can say a written defamation. So again, it's the same idea that the author had stated in the earlier sentences. The author makes it very clear that a lie which doesn't help anyone is not praiseworthy, and the same is a truth which is not helping anyone. Let's discuss this law, the law of libel. This is about defamation. So libel is a method of defamation expressed by print, writing, pictures, signs, effigies, or any communication embodied in physical form that is injurious to a person's reputation, exposes a person to public hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or injures a person in his or her business or profession. So Mark Twain cites the law of libel to prove his point that an injurious lie is equal to injurious truth. Among other common lies, we have the silent lie, the deception which one conveys by simply keeping still and concealing the truth. So the author talks about one more kind of lie, one more type of lie, and that is fraud, or we can say deception. That is when you hide the truth and not show the world that you are hiding the truth. That is deception, that is fraud. Many obstinate truth mongers indulge in this deception and dissipation, imagining that if they speak no lie, they lie not at all. So there are some of the very stubborn people chasing truth, who indulge in this kind of fraud, and then they think we have not lied at all. Now the same people have hidden the truth and they're not speaking out lies. And here they are thinking that they have never lied at all in their lives. But according to the author, this is a kind of lie. The kind of lie wherein people hides the truth and deceives the world. In that far country where I once lived, there was a lovely spirit, a lady whose impulses were always high and pure, and whose character answered to them. The author again refers to the remote area, the faraway place where he once lived, and then he talks about a lady who was always dynamic, energetic, vibrant, and this was clearly seen by the way she behaved. One day I was there at dinner and remarked, in a general way, that we are all liars. So the author was having dinner with a group and the lady was present. And we already know how there are conversations and there are candid talks when you're having dinner with friends, and the author just casually and informally remarked in a very general way that we are all liars. The same lady was amazed and said, "Not all. It was before Pinafore's time, so I did not make the response which would naturally follow in our day, but frankly said, yes, all. We are all liars." Now friends, Pinafore was a comic opera that started in 1878. So when the author commented that we are all liars, this vibrant lady was amazed and she replied, "Not all. People were liars before 1878. And then the author heard the response and thought that anyway, during the rest of the day, they will argue upon this point once again. But he frankly admitted again, yes, all. We are all liars, there are no exceptions. So what was the outcome? She looked almost offended. "Why do you include me?" "Certainly," I said. So we can imagine the author and this vibrant lady and some other folks having nice dinner, and the topic was about lying, and the author in general said we are all liars. The lady got offended and said lying was before 1878. The author still said we are all liars and nobody is an exception. Now this lady got offended and she said, "We might be liars, but why are you including me?" The author again said, "Yes, you are also a liar. I think you even rank as an expert." So not only did Mark Twain directly accuse the lady of lying, but he said that you are an expert in lying. Sentence 53. She said, "Shh, the children." So the lady asked the author not to talk about such topics because children were present. And sentence number 54. So the subject was changed in deference to the children's presence, and we went on talking about other things. Now because the children were present and such topics should not be discussed, they changed the topics and talked about a lot of other stuff while they were having their supper. Sentence 55. But as soon as the young people were out of the way, as soon as the children were out for playing, the lady came warmly back to the matter. The lady again recalled the topic of lying and said, "I have made a rule of my life to never tell a lie." The lady said, "I never lie. That's my rule. That's my policy. And I have never departed from it in a single instance." The lady affirmed that you are accusing me of lying, but I can tell you that never in my life have I lied, not even once. The author said, "I don't mean the least harm or disrespect. I don't mean to disrespect you by accusing you of lying, but really you have been lying like smoke." So the author said, "You have been lying every now and then, like smoke coming out. Ever since I've been sitting here, ever since I've been present here on the table having dinner with you, you have been lying. It has caused me a good deal of pain, but I'm not used to it." Mark Twain said that because of your lying, I'm in trouble, I'm in pain. And right from the moment we started dinner, I am in trouble because of your lies. Now the lady is unable to believe this. She required of me an instance, just a single instance. The lady said, "All right, if that's the case, give me an example. When did I lie? Because I never lie. I have never lied even once." So the author said, "Well, here is the unfilled duplicate of blank which the Oakland hospital people sent to you by the hand of the sick nurse when she came here to nurse your little nephew through his dangerous illness." This is interesting. So what is a blank? A blank is a document with spaces left for a signature or details. So to support his accusation, the author pulled out a Xerox copy of a document which had many vacant spaces for the lady to fill in. So the author said, here's a form you had to fill in, and this form was sent to you from the Oakland hospital by the hand of a sick nurse. So a sick nurse from Oakland hospital came with a document and gave it to you, and this document was about filling in the details of your little nephew who had a dangerous disease. You had to fill in this form. This blank asks all manners of questions as to the conduct of that sick nurse. Did she ever sleep on her watch? Did she ever forget to give the medicine? And so on and so forth. So these were the questions in the form which that lady had to fill in. The questions were more or less about the behavior of the nurse who was again sick. Did she ever sleep while she was taking care of the nephew? Did she ever forget to give your nephew the medicine on the given time? And so on and so forth. You are warned to be very careful and explicit in your answers, for the welfare of the service requires that the nurse be promptly fined or otherwise punished for derelictions. So, while the lady got the form, the hospital clearly told her that you have to fill the form very carefully, because depending on her inputs, the nurse will be either rewarded or punished brutally. The nurse had to follow certain instructions. So this is the case. Sentence 61. You told me you were perfectly delighted with this nurse. So it would have happened that while having dinner, the conversation would have been about the nurse taking care of the nephew. So the lady would have told the author that this nurse is good. This is a great nurse. I am very happy with her. I am delighted with her service. That she had 1,000 perfections and only one fault. The lady said that she was completely perfect, but there was one problem. You found you never could depend on her wrapping Johnny up half sufficiently while he waited in a chilly chair for her to rearrange the warm bed. So what is the name of the nephew? It's Johnny. So Johnny used to wait in a chair which was chilly, cold, and the nurse had to rearrange his bed. Now, wrapping Johnny means cover him with cloths. So the lady is accusing the nurse that she could not depend on the nurse. She could never depend on the nurse for covering Johnny with nice clothes before rearranging his bed. So wrapping Johnny up half sufficiently was the task that the nurse was not able to do. Otherwise, the lady, who was dynamic and vibrant, was really satisfied and delighted with the nurse. Now, this is what the lady had told the author when the conversation about the nurse had happened. Sentence 62. You filled up the duplicate of this paper and sent it back to the hospital by the hand of the nurse. And then the author tells the lady that you told me about this event, this incident, and your feeling about the nurse. And after having this discussion, you also told me that you had filled in this form, you had filled in this document that the hospital sent you about the nurse, about the behavior of the nurse. Sentence 63. How did you answer this question? Was the nurse at any time guilty of a negligence which was likely to result in the patient's taking cold? The lady is trying to ask the author. The lady wants one instance where she lied, because the author had accused her of being an expert in lying. So the author counter questions her. The author says, in this document there was a question. Was the nurse guilty at any time about being ignorant, because of which the patient felt chilly? Now, according to the author, the lady did not answer this question well. The lady had lied. So then the author says, come, everything is decided by a bet here in California. So the author says, let's make a bet. $10 to 10 cents. You lied when you answered that question. The author directly accuses the lady that this question you answered incorrectly. Sentence 64. She said, I didn't. She said, I didn't. I left it blank. Just so, you have told a silent lie. You have left it to be inferred that you had no fault to find in that matter. The lady immediately said, yes, I left it blank. What's wrong in that? The author replied, you left it blank. So, you are telling the hospital authorities that you had no issues with her behavior or her ignorance in the matter of making the patient feel cool. You're okay with it. That's what you have written. The author said, this is your mistake. Why did you leave it blank? You're telling the hospital authority that you're okay with this behavior. She said, oh, was that a lie? And how could I mention her one single fault? And she is so good, it would have been cruel. So, she said, how can I point out this mistake? How can I penalize her for one single mistake out of the 1,000 good things she did? It would have been very cruel of me to help the hospital authorities give her punishment because of her ignorance to look after the patient when it came to cold. It's impossible that I fill in this field. I just could not do it because I wanted to do good for her. It would have been cruel of me to fill in this field and show her mistakes. I said one ought always to lie when one can do good by it. Your impulse was right, but your judgment was crude. This comes of unintelligent practice. So the author said that one always lies when it comes to doing the good of other people. A person always lies when there is betterment for the person who he is dealing with. And then he says your impulse was right. Now what is the meaning of impulse? Impulse is a sudden, strong and unreflective urge or desire to act. An impulse is an urge, instinct, drive, need, etc. So the author says your urge was right. Now impulse is unreflective urge. That is important. Unreflective. Without reflection, you have an impulse. So your impulse was right, but your judgment was crude. What is the meaning of crude? Crude is in a natural or raw state. Unrefined, unpurified, unprocessed, untreated, unmilled. The author tells that lady that your judgment was unrefined or unprocessed. Your urge was justifiable, but your judgment was unrefined, and this comes of unintelligent practice. The author tells the lady that I win this bet because you have lied by keeping this field blank, and although your intentions were right, but you did not practice the skill of lying. And hence the author concludes that the vibrant lady lied. Now observe the results of this inexpert deflection of yours. What is the meaning of inexpert? It is, as it is self-explanatory, it is unskilled, amateur, unprofessional, having or showing a lack of skill or knowledge. The author continues the conversation with the lady and says, look what happens because of your unskilled lying. Sentence 68. You know Mr. Jones's Willie is lying very low with scarlet fever. Well, your recommendation was so enthusiastic that the girl is there nursing him, and the worn-out family have all been trustingly sound asleep for the last 14 hours, leaving their darling with full confidence in those fatal hands, because you, like young George Washington, have a repute. However, if you are not going to have anything to do, I will come around tomorrow and we will attend the funeral together, for of course you will naturally feel a peculiar interest in Willie's case, as personal a one, in fact as the undertaker. So the author is trying to explain the consequence of the unpracticed lying of that vibrant lady. She kept one particular field blank and she filled everything positive about that nurse. She told the hospital authorities that your nurse is the best by filling in everything in the form which was positive. She gave 10 on 10 to that nurse. So the author states, look at the consequence, look at the result. Now the author gives an example of Mr. Jones' son, whose name is Willie. The author states that this boy is lying down, or we can say is diseased with an infectious bacterial disease affecting children and causing fever and scarlet rash. So the author states that Willie is lying with scarlet fever. And the author tells the lady that the form that you filled in reflected such an enthusiastic and encouraging and positive and optimist behavior of the nurse that the same nurse is attending Willie now, and the worn out, or we can say tired family have all been trustingly sound asleep for the last 14 hours. The whole family is blindly trusting the same nurse who is ignorant about a patient's cold. So the whole family for the last 14 hours are paying no attention to Willie because they think that this nurse who was recommended well by this lady can easily take care of this boy who's down with scarlet fever. And the family thinks that this nurse has a reputation. People recommend her. People like this vibrant lady recommend her. So the author states that like George Washington, like young George Washington, you felt that this nurse will hold a good reputation. And then the author continues, however, if you're not going to have anything to do, I will come around tomorrow and we will attend the funeral together. So the author again sarcastically tells that lady that if you're free tomorrow, if you have no work tomorrow, then perhaps Willie would have died of that fever and we will attend Willie's funeral. Why would Willie die? Because of the ignorance of the nurse who was recommended by this lady. And then again sarcastically the author tells the lady that of course you'll naturally feel a peculiar interest. You will be interested in Willie's case. You'll have a personal connection. In fact, as the undertaker. So just like the undertaker would deal with Willie's funeral, Willie's body, etc., the author tells the lady that you will also have the same level of personal connection with Willie's case because of your one single mistake of not filling in the form correctly. But that was not all lost. Before I was halfway through, she was in a carriage and making 13 miles an hour towards Jones' mansion to save what was left of Willie and tell all she knew about the deadly nurse. So the author had not completed sharing his idea. The author had not completed his sentences. Before that, the same dynamic and energetic lady left the dinner table and ran towards Willie's house and alerted everyone, warned everyone that this nurse who you think is trustworthy is not trustworthy. She is ignoring the fact that a person can feel cold. So be aware and take good care of Willie is what she told the family. All of which was necessary as Willie wasn't sick. I had been lying myself. So the author cooked up this story of Willie just to tell the lady that everybody lies, just to make her understand, make her believe that everybody in this world lies and lying has to be skillful. So the author says this was all unnecessary because Willie, Mr. Jones's son, was not sick at all and the author himself had been lying. But that same day, all the same, she sent a line to the hospital which filled up the neglected blank and stated the facts too in the squarest possible manner. So the lady who had with full confidence told the author that she never lied in her life, not even once. She realized what the author was trying to convey. She realized that she had lied in the document which was sent by the hospital, and she ran towards the hospital and she asked the authorities to pull out that document and informed everyone about how ignorant the nurse is when it comes to her attention, her behavior when the person is feeling cold, and in the squarest possible manner, meaning exactly as it is, with no personal relations or with no personal sentiments. She knew that she was good. She did 1,000 things well, but one thing that she ignored could be life-threatening. And so she told the hospital authorities exactly the way it was, exactly the way her behavior was. Now, you see, the lady's fault was not lying, but lying injudiciously. The author says the lady's fault is not lying. She did lie. That was her fault, but that's not her only fault. That's not the crux of the matter. The real crux of the matter is lying without practice, lying without any judgment, lying without any vision or consequences. She should have told the truth there and made it up to the nurse with a fraudulent compliment further along in the paper. According to the author, she should have told the truth, but at the same time she should have put a compliment on the paper, on the document, which was dishonest. So what is it that she should have mentioned? She could have said, in one respect, this sick nurse is a perfection. When she is on the watch, she never snores. See, this is an example of practiced lying. The energetic lady could have mentioned this comment. In one respect, in one way, this nurse is perfect. There is one particular thing at which this nurse is good at. When she is on the watch, when she has to be alert, she never snores, which means she does sleep but does not snore. So the idea is conveyed. A compliment is also given to the nurse. The hospital authorities are also aware that the nurse is negligent in certain ways, and the message is conveyed. So according to the author, lies should have been well thought and well practiced. Almost any little pleasant lie would have taken the sting out of that troublesome but necessary expression of truth. So here you have a phrase to taken the sting out of. It means to make something less pleasant. The author states that the truth had to be conveyed. It was very necessary. It was necessary to tell the hospital authorities about the ignorance of this nurse. But if the person who's giving the feedback was pleasant enough to lie, or we can say would have made mistakes while lying, then the situation would have been out of control. Lying is universal and we all do it. The author claims that everybody, each and every person in this world lies. Therefore, the wise thing is for us diligently to train ourselves to lie thoughtfully, judiciously, to lie with good object and not an evil one. The author is trying to explain what is the best thing for us to do when it comes to lying. You can lie, but think about the consequence. You can lie, but be diligent. Show care and conscientiousness before lying. Be judicious. What is the meaning of judicious? To be sensible, to be canny, to be politic, to be prudent, to have or show or do with a good judgment. The author tells us to be judicious while lying. Lie with a good object and not an evil one. Your intentions behind lying should be good. To lie for others' advantage. Lie, but for the benefit of others, not your own. To lie healingly, charitably, and humanely. Your lie should help the other person to recover. Your lie should help the other person get some benefits, advantages, and your lie should show compassion and benevolence. And the opposite of that, you should not lie to hurt someone, you should not lie to be cruel to someone, you should not lie with an intent to do harm. To lie gracefully and graciously, not awkwardly and clumsily. So when you lie in an attractively elegant way. When you lie in a respectful and dignified way. When you lie in a courteous, kind and pleasant manner. Not in a clumsy way. What is the meaning of being clumsy? In an awkward and careless way. In a way that lacks skills. In a tactless way that shows lack of social skills. Do not lie clumsily. Lie firmly, frankly, squarely, with head erect, not haltingly, tortuously, with pusillanimous, mean, as being ashamed of our high calling. It is said and is concluded by research that only few percentage of people in the whole world can lie, and that too in a confident way. So that's what the author is trying to convey. When you lie, first of all, lie for the benefit of others. Secondly, lie in such a way that you are firm, you are frank, you be confident with your head erect, and do not stammer, do not become nervous, and do not make the other person think that you are making up stories, you are being a crook, you are twisting the whole thing. Do not show the person who you care about that you lack courage, you are timid, you are not determined. And then there is a word, high calling. What is the meaning of high calling? It's almost from above, meaning that a higher power has summoned you to pursue this type of work in your life. So it is as if the God wants you to lie and you are being ashamed of it. The God wants you to lie. And why? Just so that the other person gets some benefits, the other person reaps some advantages. So do not be ashamed of lying like that. Then shall we be rid of the rank and pestilent truth that is rotting the land, then shall we be great and good and beautiful, and worthy dwellers in a world where even benign nature habitually lies, except when she promises execrable weather. So, according to Mark Twain, savage, honest, brutal truth is rotting the land, is making the people feel bad. So if you follow the author's advice, which is in sentence number 78, and now that has become my personal favorite sentence, if you follow this advice, Mark Twain states that we will make the world a better place to live in. We will get rid of the rank and destructive way of life. And if we practice lying well, and if we do it, we will make the world a good and beautiful place. And worthy dwellers. What is the meaning of dwellers? To dwell is to stay. Our skillful lying will make us worthy of living in this world. And the author states, very important, that even the benign nature habitually lies. What is benign? Gentle and kind. The mother nature, whom we think of as gentle and kind, also lies, except when she promises extremely bad weather. Mother nature also lies. How is that possible? It is possible. We think of mother nature as beneficial, not harmful, gentle and kind. But is nature always not harmful? No, it's not possible. We have seen natural calamities and bad weathers. Then, but I am but a new and feeble student in this gracious art. I cannot instruct this club. What is the meaning of feeble? It is a nice word. It is an adjective. It means to be weak, to be wasted, to be frail, lacking physical strength, especially as a result of age or illness. The author states, because we already know that in the hall, in the club, there are some very experienced people sitting in front of the author and listening to him very well. In the beginning of this essay as well, the author had made it very clear that in the presence of veterans, I should not be teaching this or preaching this subject. But here, in sentence number 80 again, he reiterates that I am weak and an inexperienced student in front of you all who are very experienced. I cannot instruct you all. Joking aside, I think there is much need of wise examination into what sorts of lies are best and wholesomest to be indulged, seeing we must all lie, and we do all lie, and what sorts it may be best to avoid. And this is the thing which I feel I can confidently put into the hands of this experienced club, a ripe body, who may be termed in this regard, and without undue flattery, old masters. This is the concluding line that the author puts forward in front of the crowd and the experienced people who are listening to him attentively. All jokes aside, there has to be some research, some discussion, some debate on what lies are best and what lies are fulfilling, and what sort of lies you should speak or practice. Because again, the author states that we all lie. Let's admit, we all lie, and we do it every day. And then the author puts the ball in the club's court. The author passes the baton to the club members. The author states that this topic, I think I should hand over this topic to you. A ripe body. Now, what is a ripe body? Try to relate it with a fruit. A fruit becomes ripe, meaning fully developed, mature. So the club is fully developed, fully mature, who may be termed, let's trim out the words in between, who may be termed as old masters. The author addresses the crowd, addresses the members of the club as old masters. And the author states this is without excessive flattery. I'm not praising you excessively, but I'm rightfully calling you all experienced people as old masters. And so I'm handing over this topic of lying skillfully to you. You can take it forward, have debates, and conclude as to which lies are best and which lies are wholesomest. What a wonderful essay Mark Twain had written, and no doubt why he is so famous even today. All in all, there are some takeaways we have. Number one, Mark Twain insists that we should lie judiciously. Number two, Mark Twain claims that everybody in this world lies, no matter how truthful they appear to be. Number three, and very important, Mark Twain summarizes that if you lie, make sure that you lie selflessly. You lie keeping in mind the benefits of others. Number four, he feels bad that In today's world, people are not judging the situation very well and speaking out the truth bluntly, and that leads to destructive consequences. So these are some of the takeaways. I am sure you must have understood this chapter. If in case you have some clarifications, suggestions, recommendations, or doubts, you're welcome to let me know in the comment section and I will definitely respond to your comments. I thank you all for watching and I hope you have a pleasant day ahead.